Hi, my name's Rachel, and today we're going to talk about Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph White, or AJ White. This was requested by my patron Aaron. This is Aaron's favorite book, and a bunch of us buddy read it, a bunch of my patrons. Obviously, this appeals to me very specifically because this book is about a religious cult. I am going to keep this spoiler free and try to convince you to read it. The synopsis reads, "Prepare to die, his kingdom is near." Wow, ominous. 16-year-old trans boy Benji is on the run from the cult that raised him, the fundamentalist sect that unleashed Armageddon and decimated the world's population. Desperately, he searches for a place where the cult can't get their hands on him, or more importantly, the bioweapon they infected him with. But when cornered by monsters born from the destruction, Benji is rescued by a group of teens from the local LGBTQ+ center, affectionately known as the ALC. The ALC's leader, Nick, is gorgeous, autistic, and a deadly shot, and he knows Benji's darkest secret. The cult's bioweapon is mutating him into a monster deadly enough to wipe humanity from the earth once and for all. Still, Nick offers Benji shelter among his ragtag group of queer teens, as long as Benji can control the monster and use its power to defend the ALC. Eager to belong, Benji accepts Nick's terms until he discovers the ALC's mysterious leader has a hidden agenda and more than a few secrets of his own. A furious, queer debut novel about embracing the monster within and unleashing its power against your oppressors, perfect for fans of Gideon the Ninth and Annihilation. So, I don't think the comp titles quite work here. I think Annihilation, yes, but I don't see Gideon the Ninth in this. And I am talking about Annihilation the movie. I haven't actually read the book. So, I mean, it definitely, I can see Annihilation the movie. It might be even more true about the book, but Gideon the Ninth I'm not quite seeing. I'm going to give you trigger warnings up front. These come straight from the author, who I think is an absolute gem of a human, by the way. Content warnings: violence, explicit gore, arson, murder and mass murder, including of children, warfare, terrorism, body horror, including with like teeth and ears, so like careful. Transphobia, misgendering, dead naming with the name written out repeatedly, threats of transphobic violence, forced detransition, religious abuse, Christian terrorism combined with elements of eco-fascism, abusive parents and domestic partner violence, including returning to an abusive partner and victim self-blame. I think that the returning to an abusive partner was written very accurately here. Self-injury, including attempted suicide of a side character, emetophobia, vomiting, warning throughout. There is a lot of vomiting in this. I tandem read this on physical and audio. Shout out Libro FM. I did get the audio. The audio is very good. I do recommend getting the audio if you can read audiobooks. One of the narrators is Avi Roque, who also did Cemetery Boys. Avi Roque is very talented, always putting out great work. So if you can read I do have a physical copy of this. I always leave them downstairs, and then I'm not willing to walk downstairs and go get them. Kind of scared to go downstairs right now with the cat making those noises. This book is for particular people, and people who are willing to read stories that might not reflect their experiences. This is a book that a lot of people, I think, are going to read and in their review just say, this wasn't for me. And I want to tell you who it is for and encourage you to read it to help you maybe gain a new perspective that you won't experience on your own. It won't reflect your own life, and sometimes that's a good thing. So this book is about and for, number one, trans folks, particularly trans youth experiencing dysphoria. Number two, teens in general. This is the kind of young adult book that adults can read and get a lot out of, but this really is, I assume, AJ White's love letter to a teen version of himself, and that shows, and a lot of care was taken in making this for today's teens. Number three, queer folks, particularly those who find more real family in their found family than in their biological family. And number four, people who grew up in extreme religions. And I am of the latter two groups, so that resonates deeply with me, certainly. Now again, I think anybody can read this book and review it, but part of my job in reviewing is trying to figure out who I think the book was written, like what audience was written with it in mind. Some authors, this is not about YA books, some authors of adult books are like, it just wasn't for you, when it's literally for me. And I'm like, I think we disagree. I think that it sounds really good to say it just wasn't for you, but there are cases when a book is written for somebody, but they think your writing's bad. Sorry, that was a tangent. Part of my job in reviewing is trying to decide who was this written for, what is this book's intended audience, and if I think those audience were done right by it, if they will enjoy it, not just did I enjoy it or was it for me. I try to do that to be more descriptive in my review, cover more bases, and yes, I think that this did do do right by its intended audiences. And not only that, I think that this is an extremely timely and needed read for those audiences. Personally, I think the writing in here is fantastic. Very descriptive in a way that works for me. This line right here in the very front of the book, I underlined on page 1, and I was like, wow. Hello, my dumbass is editing this right now, and I just noticed that I didn't read you the line that I was talking about. So here we are. So the image of Dad's body burns into the folds of my brain, writes itself between the grooves of my fingerprints, and I swallow it down until I choke. Angels cut out the parts of us that remember how to cry until we can't. We learn to mask the grief, to pack it away for later, until eventually we just die. So that is page 1 of Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph White. Sorry that I'm terrible at book reviewing, good God. Damn, that's good. It's a very good description of, to me, what good descriptive writing looks like. Bringing to eye these little details that we don't typically think about, like the grooves of your fingerprints, and marrying them together with the emotions that the author is trying to convey in order to set the scene. This book, one of my patrons pointed out that it is similar to The Last of Us and Wilder Girls in its use of body horror and like post-apocalyptic setting, and I agree. Both those things are like, those two pieces of media are very unnerving in the way that they are written intentionally, and this has that same sort of feeling to it, and I deeply appreciated that. We get different POVs actually, which is great. Most of the time we're with Benji. Our other is Nick, who is the leader of the ALC, the Queer Youth Center, and Nick is autistic and sometimes goes nonverbal, and I thought that that was really great representation. In chapter 6, Benji talks about how autism is perceived in the religion, and I thought that that was really important because even though like now my mom, she's come a long way in her ableism, and it wasn't like violent towards people who had autism, but I grew up in a sect of fundamentalism that is very violently ableist towards a lot of different groups. I thought that this was very very either AJ White grew up in this religion himself or is incredibly well versed, because that's exactly how a lot of fundies view autism, is the way that Benji explained Christians in this book feeling about people with autism. As far as pacing, this book hit the ground running right off in the beginning, but then hits a bit of a lull, which was a bummer. Plot wise, this is another snapshot book, and I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting more plot. This is way more character focused, so I think going into that will help temper your expectations. This is a lot of like allegory, not so much about the religious cult, but the religious cult aspects were definitely well done, but they were more in like what it feels like to experience that on an inner level. So like an example of that is it really nailed the inner turmoil that you experience when you still have belief in a religion that is in direct conflict with your identity. And this is a lot about like Benji's experiences and Benji's growth as a person, and leaving that religion and knowing how harmful it is to them, but then still like having all of these religious beliefs. There is a really good line that says, "It hurts, but it hurts like growing, like setting a bone or popping a joint back into place." And I was like, damn, that is a really good way to explain how deconstruction feels. There's also just this absolute like existential dread in this writing, in the tone, in the atmosphere, in the way Benji thinks, what we're experiencing plot-wise. It's all pretty well choreographed to make you just feel a constant state of dread, similar to, The Last of Us, Wilder Girls, The Walking Dead, other post-apocalyptic books, and other pieces of media. But again, like, I cannot say how well done I feel the religious parts were in here. Like, just very, like, the experience of being in this religion was like the way you think about it. It was brilliant. I mean, just very brilliantly done. The discussion in chapter 11 around perfect love, which is what we call Christ's love for us, we can only ever hope to be perfect like Christ, including in how we love one another. But then also the fear of the Lord is another concept that you learn in Fundyland. Fear of the Lord, which doesn't mean like literal afraid, depending on who you talk to. And then other people, they're like, yes, it means literally afraid. So they like to get like real philosophical about the phrase, I know what fear of the Lord means now. And what's funny is hearing these, it's supposed to add to like the unsettling feeling, like going over and over and over these same ideas in your mind, because they teach you like mental gymnastics in Fundyland. They give you these phrases and then you go over and over them. And two of them are things like, you know, perfect love and fear of the Lord. So reading chapter 11 and these things coming up, and Benji like thinking about these things and thinking about the way in which he learned them, and the way that this, like, you know, even still forms his thoughts after leaving the cult, it actually made me quite anxious, which I think was done like very intentionally and very smartly. And personally, I was pretty proud of myself being able to like continue reading this, even though it was making me anxious. It didn't trigger a panic attack, which was really nice. I had to wait to read this. I've had this on my shelf for a while. I did have to wait to read this, and buddy reading helps certainly, so that I can get those feelings out in case, you know, they start feeling like I'm gonna have a panic attack. On top of this, AJ White really nailed the writing of the sensory experience of being preached at by evangelicals. Holy shit. So you can watch it in a video if you've never experienced it. You can watch it, but when you're in it, when you are in those congregations, they use everything to manipulate you. They are using lighting, music, smells, everybody around you, and like certain like verbal cues in order to emotionally manipulate you into having a spiritual experience. And the way that he nailed what that feels like to be preached at with all these sensory issues going all these sensory things going on was so scary, on point. I felt like I was there again. I was really impressed. And again, because you leave it but it never really leaves you, Benji's thoughts, his own thought processes, are constantly interrupted by spiritual sayings and phrases and verses, because that's what we're taught. We're taught to constantly keep our mind on that which is good and recite verses, and every word can be related back to a verse. Benji was betrothed to this other dude. Benji is a trans guy, but he was raised as to be a girl, and so his you know, religion says you're a girl even though he's not a girl. And he was betrothed to this other guy and still has a lot of feelings for that guy, and vice versa, but that guy is abusive and is part of the cult. And Benji's talking about love and is talking about a biblical love, and is talking about this very particular woman who taught about biblical love. And I swear to God, that was AJ White shitting on Elizabeth Elliot. If I'm wrong and it's about somebody else, fine, but if it's not about Elizabeth Elliot specifically, I would be surprised, because Elizabeth Elliot is just the fucking worst. And she talks a lot about biblical love and teaching women and girls biblical love. Is she still alive? Oh God. Hope not. No offense to her family, but she sucks. Typical funny bullshit you can think of, that's Elizabeth Elliot, teaching a lot of like gender roles played out through religion. And the thing is that I think what AJ White was trying to do here is sort of mirror how in Fundyland, not only are you expected to think a certain way just in general, like you are supposed to order your thoughts based upon like verses and sayings and beliefs so that you immediately think what they want you to think. It's also like that when you are like assigned female at birth, you are expected to behave a certain way. And there's also a certain set of expectations for people who were assigned male at birth, right? So I think that that's, you know, the kind of a parallel that AJ White was drawing, was like this expectation of behavior. There's a part where Benji finds out that Nick said a particular thing and wants to confront Nick about it, and says, I want to say up front that I'm not accusing you of anything. And then in internal, since being raised a good Christian girl will do things to you, will make you hedge topics and soften blows. Yep. Yeah. True. In the book, it talks about like not feeling like your faith is not enough, like you're not where everybody else is at. And that's the thing, is that because, and I'm not saying that everybody's faking it, because I'm sure that for some people, I'm agnostic, so I think that anything could be true. But when everybody around you is probably faking it, you start to believe that everybody's experiencing spirituality except you. It starts to make you feel like something's wrong with you. And for a teen, for a kid, it's very, very painful and hard. It talks about this in chapter 18, saying, I tried to feel it, I swear I did. I reached for it, squeezed my eyes shut as tight as I could, and begged for it, to feel the warmth my mom always was assuring me was waiting once I accepted God into my heart. There was nothing, always nothing. Maybe that's how it was supposed to be. God is an absent parent who demands loyalty despite never coming around. Woof. There's just a lot of very sweet moments. Like, this is very introspective. There's a lot of sweet moments. At one point, as a coping mechanism, they're making bead bracelets, like you know those lizard bead bracelets, and like Benji has to pick different colors because Alex already picked like the trans pride colors. It was just very sweet and precious. So I love Benji. I love the discussions of evangelical shit that is very on point. I love the prose. The plot didn't quite hit for me, but then like again, there were just such high moments, like Benji talking such like high moments like of relatability, I should say, for me, where it's like Benji talking about getting anxiety even overhearing a piano version of a gospel song, not even having the lyrics, just having the piano version. Relatable. I think that the writing itself is very good. We even switch from like first to third, and that switch is so understandable in, you know, whose POV we are. It makes a lot of sense because we're in first doing a lot of like introspective shit with Benji that we're not doing with others. The writing of like sensory experiences where like people having to calm themselves down because they're getting touched out is so well done in here. I think the autism rep in here is phenomenal. I think that Nick is a like on the asexual spectrum, and like it talks about not knowing really how to like know whether or not he likes somebody. It is very well done. I think the conversations in here are really great about like identity and sexuality and feeling. Again, I just wish the plot had hit harder. And also this is a lot like there's an obvious allegory that I cannot like express well, I can't articulate well, about transness and what Benji is becoming, what he's turning into, as far as like the, you know, the thing he was set up to become through the you know, the angel shit, through the bioengineering. There is obviously like an allegory to like the trans experience here that I cannot articulate well. I'll try to find another review that can, because I am a cisgender woman, so I'm not able to like speak to that. I can tell it's there, and I think that for trans folks this will be incredibly important rep, in the same way that this is incredibly important conversation and representative stuff for me, having grown up in Fundyland. I think that this is an incredibly important book. I just wish the plot had really been like a driving factor, but this is so introspective. So I gave it a 4.25 out of 5 because again, I really am a plot girly, but I really like I will be thinking about the way that the religion I grew up in particular, was portrayed in this, and was able to like put words to thoughts that I didn't have the words, even though I've had the experiences themselves. I will always be thankful to AJ White for writing this so that I could have those words. That I don't think, unless you've experienced it, you really understand what it's like to not be able to articulate something that you've experienced until somebody else writes it for you. That's so powerful and so freeing and humbling. Okay, I think I need to be done now. Alright, it's almost time for me to go get my kids anyway. I've been filming since like 10:30 a.m. Alright, thank you so much for watching. If you like this book, leave your thoughts and questions and comments down in the below area comment section. Thank you to Erin for suggesting this. Thank you to everybody who buddy read it with us. I had a marvelous time. Thank you so much. I will definitely be reading AJ White's other books. Very excited about them. Bears Its Teeth, it sounds really good, and then there's another one coming out. Very excited. Alright, thank you so much. See you next time. Bye.
Hello, it is Trash Can Rachel. It is the end of video credits, so I'm here to say thank you for being a friend to my Therapy Bills patrons first and foremost, and those are Alexander, Brittany Bobitney, Cami, Chris, Dalton Smith, DJ Rocktopus, Ellie, Emperor's New Blues, Aaron with 2 E's, Eric, Ethel Golightly, JC Murphy, Jack, Jesse, Jill, John E, Julie D, Helene OK, Casey McKenzie, Kate W, Caitlin M, Quinn, Lady Kittybug, Lemon Jelly, oh my god, that makes me hungry, Lex, Max Baker, Mixer Boneless, Night Owl Reader, Alice, Panoramic Demon, Rachel C, Rain, Reese, SJ, Scarlet, Samar, Shadow Auntie, Shiny, SMK, Steph B, 2 Orbit, Chai Guy, and the Salem T. Lynn. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend. And last but not least, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Potato Search Marxist patrons, and those are my favorite flavor is Rachel. Oh my god. Why? Alicia, Amanda, Andy, Angelica, Anita, Artie the Ninth, Ashley H, Ava, Ballads and Bookends, Beck, Blake Lemon Pants, Blythe, Bookish Bats, Bookish Brainrot, Bree, Caitlin, Cardinal Ginger, Carlin, Casper, Kate W, Catherine, Kathy, Chris, CJ, Clementine, Cole, Colleen, Corwin, Cosmic, Danielle M, Darren, Deborah, Diet Goth, Dorian, Ebby, Ember, Emerald Dodge, Emily A, Emily L, Emma, Aaron, Ezra Moon, Fiona, Hannah C, Harpy Kuro, Haley G, Ilianaka, India Inks, JM Tennant, Jay is on Olympus, Jelly V, Jen Michelle, Genderqueer, Jenny G, Justice Sue, Jillian, Jojo Bookish, Kai, Kat, Catherine M, Katie, Kayala, Kendra, Kiara, Laughing Cat Dog, Laura G, Lauren G, Lazarus, Library Scars, Lindsay M, Lisa B, Lisa L, LP, Lou Siri, Lustful Octopus, Martin, MV Marlowe, Madison, Man-Eating Plant, Marcella, Marquita, Malara, Mentally Unwell, same, May, MK Books, Molly, James, Nat, Natalie M, Never, Nicole G, Nicole R, Nyan Binary, Paige P, Penny Chilling, Foxglove, Rachel B, Reba, Rebecca, Rivi D, Rosie, Rowan, Secoria, Sadie, Sayer Riley, Sakia Lume, Samantha M, Samantha O, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Sarah Z, Shamed, Shannon, Sheen Onion, Sean, T Delegati, Tay, Talia, 3 Old Dogs, Tiana, Tina, Toast, Trash Can Teddy, Ty, Tito Phoenix, Wiki Cherry, and Writer A. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend.